Hey yo! What's happening? Thank you for stopping by my channel. If you're here for the first time, my name is Rue and this is Rue's ABCs, my channel where I share with you my adventures, beauty and lifestyle, as well as career experiences. If you're part of the returning gang, bring it in, come here yo. Here's a huge big hug, a special shout out to you. Thank you for your support. I appreciate you and all your effort. I want to let you know that every view, every like, every comment does not go unnoticed, guys. You're the real MVPs doing the most test. Thank you so much. I love y'all. So, are you thinking of moving out? Or maybe you just did. Or maybe there are just some things that you wish you knew when you did. Well, trust me, I know all about that. There are some things that I definitely wish I knew when I moved out. So today, don't worry, we're gonna get all up in it. We're gonna talk about all of it. But before we jump into today's video, remember we are on our road to 1,000 subscribers. Yes, we need to get to 1,000, guys. So remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a thing when yours truly posts. Let's talk about moving out, shall we? Today, I'm gonna talk to you about my moving out story. I'm gonna get all down and dirty about it. I admit it wasn't my proudest moment, but it had to be done. It had to be done. So, pale hapo mwanskana akafunga zvekubva kwao kuti atange kugara ega. Guys, the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life was telling my mom that I want to move out. Trust me, I've done stuff that I thought was hard, but that, I don't want to lie to you, it was so difficult. I had no idea how to go about that. So, here's how it all went down. It was in 2018. Wait, was it in 2018? Yes, it was in 2018, and I just finished college, I graduated, got my first real job, and I was just so excited, like, ooh, adulthood, here I come. So I started thinking, because to be frank with you, the reason why I wanted to move out is that you know how our economy is always fluctuating, and then there's inflation, and then things go up. So sometimes I find that in the previous years when all this happened, I would want to buy something and then I'd put it off saying, I'm still staying kumbana mama, so why do I need to buy this? But then if I go back to the stores later and I look at this item, the price maybe has gone up by 3 times or 4 times. So when I got my first job, I was like, you know what? Let me start buying my own stuff so that I can so that I can move out, and then if the economy does its thing, we know it's probably going to do anyway, I'll be ready. At least with all this money that I'm getting from my salary, I can say, oh, at least I did something with this money. So the thing was, where I was staying with my mom and my family, there wasn't that much space, because remember, this is a family home, and now I want to start bringing my own stuff in there. There wouldn't be space for it. So I was like, you know what, let me just find my own space where I can then start getting all the stuff ndichiunganidza to property twangu by myself without any space restrictions. But now, how do I tell mchembere kuti moms ndoya hapo mwana adakubuda mudanga, guys? So at first I didn't know what to do. I was like, should I tell her? But every time I would see it and then there's an opportunity, I always chickened out because I didn't know how to go about it. Because remember, I'm the last born, I'm the only girl, this is me, her baby. Trying to tell her that, mom, I want to go out and stay by myself. So it was hard. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. So I had this cousin of mine who was staying by herself. So she was like, you know what, why can't we just get a place together? And then we can share the rentals, maybe 3 rooms or so. At least that way, each one of us will have her own room. And I was like, okay, that's not a bad idea. And for me, it was also like a scapegoat, because I knew that since she was older than me and she had been staying by herself for some time and my mom trusted her, I thought, okay, if I say I'm gonna stay with her, it might be easier to break it down to her. Guys. So every time I would chicken out, and then I started asking even some of my relatives who used to stay at home, I'm like, guys, how did you do it when you wanted to leave? So I asked my aunt, I was like, Mama, how did you do this when you wanted to move out? She was like, you know what? I just went out and found a place, and then when I came back home, I told them, yo, I found a place, so I'm leaving. So I was like, okay, if I break it down to her using the cousin angle, and if it doesn't work, then I'll go this whole all guns blazing, find a place and then just break it out to her. So we started looking for a place, my cousin and I think it started in April, right? And she was already talking about giving notice to her landlord, so all was riding on me. Because if I chickened out and she had given a notice to her landlord, she wouldn't have a place to stay while she was waiting for me. She kept asking, have you spoken to her? Have you spoken to him? And I was like, you know what? Something came up. I always found an excuse. So now I started like planting these seeds every time we spoke with my mom. I was like, mama, so maybe I need to find a place, rentals, what. I'll just throw in random hints of people staying by themselves. I'll throw in the economy, I'll throw in the prices of property, I'll throw in how a person grows more responsible when they're staying by themselves. And she was always like nonchalant about it, like, yes, no, I think what the kind of thing. So she never really gave me the platform to really bring my story out. Fast forward, my cousin's notice is left by 1 month and she has to be out. I'm like, I'm out of time. TikTok, what should I do? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go that all guns blazing, that Gestapo kind of way, and just find a place and then break it out to her. Guys, we found a place. We went and paid rent, right? And this was my cousin's last day of a notice, remember? So I was like, you know what? My mom doesn't know about this, so I gotta find a way to tell her. And then she was like, okay, so what we're gonna do is after we pay our rent, and then we'll go together to your mom, and then we'll come and pick my stuff from my old place, and then we'll go. And I was like, okay. So we went to my mom's place, and we had spent the whole day house hunting, and this was around 5-6 in the evening. And then we got there. My mom is seeing me and my cousin coming there with the serious faces. She's like, hey, what's up with these girls? But she didn't say anything. You know how adults are like. We sit down on the sofas. She had prepared supper. She was eating. And then I was like, mama, panika ngayakadira nduda name. Remember my cousin is looking for a place. Now takabatsira na kutsvaga imba. So we now found a place and we've already paid the rent. And we tried to sell the house, right? We're like, it's safe, there's a bureau, there's a gate, and the landlord doesn't stay there, and there are other mature families staying there. There's a couple and their kids, and it's close to shops, close to transport. It's a nice place. We tried to sell it, like, hey, we need to sell this place while we can move there. So we're trying to make it feel good and not to worry about us staying there. But at the same time, this is the first time she's hearing that her baby girl wants to get out. So she was like, And then she continued eating. I thought she was going to say something. Oh no, the lady didn't budge, guys. She didn't budge. So I waited for the first spoonful of rice to be chewed and swallowed. I was like, okay, maybe now she will give me a response. The second one, silence. That's what I knew. I'm gonna have to try harder and bring out the big guns, guys. So So when I noticed that she isn't entertaining this whole thing, I just took my cousin and said, I'm like, you know what, maybe you just need to go and get your stuff and go to the new place. I'll sort this out. If I talk to her and she hears me out, I'll come and follow today. But if not, I'll have to spend the night fighting my battle, and then we'll just see tomorrow. And she was like, oh, it's fine. And she went ahead. Now, back into the lion's den. By the time I come back into the house, she's already put on her night stuff, guys. She's getting ready for bed, brushing her teeth. And I'm like, Mama, did you hear my story? We found a place. It's a nice place. And then I even pitched the whole how it's important to buy furniture while I still can, because you never know with the economy, what. And then she was silent for some time, and then she was like, but Auntie Matuita Jameda already. You already went and looked for a place. Why are you asking me for permission? You already did this. So what do you need my permission for? Guys. Then I was like, you know what, Mama, what, I'm sorry about the way I went about it. But I was just trying to be independent, try to be more mature, and try to see what life is like by myself. She was like, since you've decided, it's okay. You can go. So yeah, that was my moving out story, guys. Like I said, I'm not proud of how I went about it, but I did it. She warmed up to the whole idea later on. Even started asking me, whenever I visited Kumba, she was like, do you have hupu? Do you have this and that? So finally she accepted it. But she always stressed that she wasn't happy with me not telling her up front and just doing it last minute. So yeah, guys, when you decide to move out, please try to prepare the folks, prepare them for this empty nesters phase. Now, what did I learn from this experience? Guys, like I said, there's a lot I wish I knew before I moved out, and I'm gonna share that with you today. So you better get a pen and paper ready, or maybe save this video or download it for later, because this is some gold right here, especially if you're trying to move out on your own in Zimbabwe. Okay, so I have a list with me here that I'm gonna share with you of all the things that I learned, and it might help some of you, it might not, but take what you can, because I feel like some of these tips will be very useful, especially if you're moving out for the first time or without nothing at all, or maybe you wish you knew these things before. My first lesson was to know the reason why you want to move out. Personally, for me, it was an economic thing. It was also an issue of me getting my independence, because I felt that if I kept staying at home with my mom, I wasn't going to grow up fast enough. I also looked at it from an angle whereby our economy is not stable enough, and I didn't want to regret having got money at a certain point and not having done anything tangible that I could be proud of, that I could show that when I started working, this is what I did. So that was the first reason. I needed the space to really buy my stuff and put it in, and I also just wanted to be independent and to mature fast enough. So you find that sometimes reasons for moving out are different. Maybe you'll be forced by circumstances, but one thing I can guarantee you guys, you are never ready. And how you go about moving out depends on your reason for doing it. You'll also find that there are always pros and cons for moving out. For example, there's some things you're gonna miss, and then some things you're also going to start appreciating. For example, in my experience, I miss not having to come home and cook or do the dishes, guys. Sometimes it was just nice to come from work and you find, supper is ready. But now, when you're living by yourself, guys, hey, if you don't cook, you're gonna starve. And then there's the dishes. Personally, I don't like doing dishes. I just don't like doing dishes. Not that I can't. There's just this thing about dishes. And even when I do the dishes, you find that my drying corner, it's like Jenga right there. When I pull a spoon, I have to make sure that everything else doesn't come tumbling down. I know people who have those dish jengers in their kitchens right now. So please don't judge. Don't judge. I know you got them. I also love the freedom that comes with staying by yourself. You find that no one is telling you what to do. It's all up to you. No one's telling you gotta cook, you gotta clean, or what. It's all up to you. And you also find that you gotta have a lot of self-discipline. So you are going to be forced to learn how to make yourself accountable, like for cleaning and doing other stuff that normally you have to be asked to do for you to be able to do that. The second lesson that I learned is that in as much as you can't be truly and fully ready for this, just make sure you feel ready mentally and financially at least. And there are some things that you need to be prepared for, like your maturity levels, because now everybody's going to start perceiving you as an adult. So when you buy your groceries, you're guaranteed sometimes at home they're going to be expecting something. They're not expecting you to come asking for stuff from them, because you staying on your own basically means you're not your own person. You can handle this. So makutotari you also have to be mature enough to be able to face conflicts amicably. You need to be socially responsible, because now when you start staying with other people, you find that sometimes you have to reach compromises. Sometimes you don't all agree with the other tenants, so you find there's some things that you're gonna need to compromise and adjust on. And you don't have to throw tantrums or to be that person who is violent and whatnot. You need to really be mature about everything and try to look at things from both sides. Another lesson that I learned is be sure you can afford it. So don't try to rush to move out by yourself when you know that your finances are not yet aligned enough to sustain you on your own. Yeah, I understand sometimes people are forced to move out because of circumstances. But if you still have somewhere to stay and you're not being forced out, try to take advantage of that circumstance as much as possible. Because when you're out there, it's now hard. There are more responsibilities when you're staying by yourself than when you're staying with your parents. So utilize that time and opportunity to make yourself financially stable, so that when you move out, at least you get the most basic of stuff that's needed to survive in the first months when you're not really settled yet. Now, here are some tips that I put together from my lessons that I learned when I moved out. I'm going to be reading this from my phone because it's quite an extensive list. So the first tip that I give you is make sure you plan ahead. Figure out how you want to live. So when I say figure out how you want to live is, are you going to start from a one room? Are you going to start from maybe a cottage? You need to know where you stand in terms of that. Also research the areas you want to live in. Research the cost of rent. Research how much it is for agents in that area. So when I say agents, you know those guys who kind of know when there's a vacant place where you can stay. But you need to be careful about agents because not all of them are legit. So you find some of them are just trying to make a quick buck off of you, so you have to be careful. So make sure you don't pay anyone upfront before you see anything, or anyone who asks you to send money to them. Don't do that. First see a place, and then if you like it, then you can pay. Personally, what I've done is I utilized WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups where I would post the area that I want. So you'll be like, okay, I'm looking for areas like Mount Pleasant, Eastleigh, blah blah blah. So you're just stating areas you are interested in staying in. You also need to state the budget that you have and also how many rooms you're looking for in that area. That way it's easier for people to let you know if they find something that is within your criteria. So another thing that you need to keep in mind, and I also spoke about this briefly in my previous video right here, is that you need to pick an area that you know you can afford. So when your finances don't allow you to go and stay in Borodale Brook, don't go to Borodale Brook. We don't want you to go to work just so you can get paid. Choose an area that is within your budget. Personally, I look for places to stay in the high density area because usually the rentals are cheap. So all I need to do is just to find a house that's nice with reasonable rent and the number of rooms that I want and with good living conditions, and I take that place. because that way I don't have to stretch my pocket and be struggling at the end of the month to make ends meet. But if you find that you can't do high density areas, what you can do is maybe you can find someone to share with, and you find a nice place in those uppity places, and then you guys can split the rent. This tip also works even if you want to stay in the high density or medium density areas. If you feel like, okay, I can't afford this by myself, but if I'm to split it enough with someone, then find a roommate, and then you guys can split the cost and you can stay in a place you want and everybody wins. The next point would be to use a trusted agent or a trusted site. So I mentioned that I searched using WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups, but there are also sites like rooms.co.zw where they put up listings and you can see if it's within your criteria. They also put up a badge on some of the postings that state that this is a verified agent. So you find that at least that will give you some trust within that person who will be posting. So whenever you find a listing, always make sure that you request pictures so that you see what the place looks like. And even after you get pictures, also make sure that you go and see the place in person. Because sometimes what these agents do is that they'll post pictures of a place, but then when you go there, it's not the place. And sometimes they'll then tell you once you get there that you were too late, the house is already taken. That's a lie. They probably never had that house data, but they just wanted your money, that agent fee that they charge.